week's episode of Naruto Shippuden, Sakura, Choji, and Ino are still battling against the group of sand ninja led by Lady Saya, the creepy puppet lady. This week's episode was okay. I think it was a step up from last week's, but there was still a lot of unnecessary flashbacks. There was an entire sequence in this week's episode where we got to see Naruto and Jiraiya training. They're in the middle of this big stadium, and he summons Garatora, the Toad Scroll Summon, and he's going to use this to sort of loosen up the chakra inside of Naruto so that he can try to train with Kurama's chakra just a little bit more. Of course, he starts rampaging, going immediately into the four-tailed state and destroying both him and Jiraiya, and they're both hospitalized. This scene, I don't really think was needed, especially because we've had enough scenes of training with Kurama, and we already know at the very end of the war that he's basically best buddies with Kurama at this point and has attained even more power than we've ever seen before. So really, this was just padding out the time and just showing us another scene where they were training, but I really don't think it was needed. The things that were interesting about this week's episode, believe it or not, I think, again, was from the enemies that Sakura, Ino, and Choji were fighting against. The character of Lady Saya is beyond creepy. She's very similar to Kankuro and Sasori in how she actually uses her abilities, how apparently she has all these multiple puppet bodies that she can switch in between at multiple times by inserting her soul into it, or ever how the hell that works. My original thought was maybe that weird little doll thing was actually her real body, but at the very end of this week's episode, she inexplicably just transforms back into her original state that we saw at the beginning, which was completely destroyed and crushed by Choji, by the way, which was pretty damned awesome. I really liked the part at the beginning of the episode, though, when Saya and Ino were having a battle inside of Choji's mind. I thought that was really cool. But at the end of the day, basically, it's just them tricking them again. They get them trapped in this massive sandstorm, and Saya is able to create these puppets out of sand. So they look like these living sand soldiers, and they're having to fight all against them. The thing is, her other teammates are actually covered up in the sand, and they use this as an opportunity to do a sneak attack and to poison the teammates. That's when Sakura comes into play. And you think maybe it's going to be a little flashier, maybe it's going to be something a little more elaborate. No, it's just the same old tried and true Sakura jumping up into the air, smacking the crap out of everything and creating a massive explosion, which ironically ends up creating these big waves of sand, which actually just ends up washing the team away, and I'm presuming that's pretty much just going to be the end of that. And that's pretty much this whole episode. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Naruto Shippuden? Pretty much just more of the same. I think the most interesting thing about this week's chapter is the character of Lady Saya. Just the fact that there's another puppet user out there who has abilities very similar to that of Kankuro and Sasori, I think is really awesome. It makes perfect sense why she's from the Hidden Sand Village. I would have liked to see maybe a little bit more of what her teammates are capable of, but they certainly had their moments. The guy with the snake arm and the weird girl who was creating all of the big sandstorms was doing some pretty crazy jutsu movements, if you know what I mean. The thing, though, that I really just wanted a little bit more from this episode was maybe just something a little different from Sakura, aside from just seeing the same thing that she always does, although we do have to realize this is before she became a Chunin, and this is when she's trying to prove herself to all of her friends, so they might not even realize she has this strength quite yet. And I did think it was really cool when she jumped out from the massive dust cloud and just came down on top of them like a freaking torpedo of death. I did think that was pretty cool. Otherwise, this was just sort of an okay episode. You know, all the stuff with Naruto, you know, you could completely skip it and you really wouldn't miss a beat. You know, you could argue that you never got to see it before, but again, it's something you didn't need to see. All the stuff with Lady Saya was great. All the imagery with her and her puppets was really creepy and disturbing, especially the little one, and when you got to see the destruction of her first puppet with its face all twisted around and nasty, I really thought that was awesome. I think that's definitely the type of imagery I wanted to see a little bit more from this arc, aside from just all of the random filler moments that really don't go anywhere. Otherwise, this was just an okay episode. Sakura fans, I'm sure, are going to appreciate it because, of course, she's being a badass, and it was just really awesome to see her punch things and get real angry and awesome. Maybe she was reading today's Naruto Gaiden chapter. Maybe that's what pissed her off so much. I'm not so sure. What I will say is, this week's episode was okay, in my opinion. I liked it mostly for the imagery and for a few minor action scenes, so I'm going to give this week's episode a 3 out of 5, just a very average episode of Naruto Shippuden, but hopefully things will pick up in the Chunin exam from here, so make sure to check it out, Naruto fans, whether you've been watching the anime series or reading the manga version. And make sure to tell me what you thought about this week's episode in the comment section below. What did you think of the battle scenes from this week's episode? Did you like the Naruto flashback? What do you want to see from the rest of the Chunin exam arc? Thank you guys for watching my review. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with all your friends. Please subscribe to our channel and follow us on social media. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby.